Quest number 106, Death to the Dorgeshuun. We follow Khazgar to the Goblin Mine and have a talk with Mistag again. He says the Council would like to ask us a favor. He says that humans have been visiting the mines, but no dorgeshuun has seen the surface. They're curious about the surface, but are weary about Ham, among other things. He'd like us to guide one of them around safely. We accept, and he mentions that we're going into the Ham hideout? What? Why? Well, anyway, he says we'll need a set of Ham robes and to meet with their agent in the Lumbridge basement once we have them. Next, we go to the Ham hideout and steal some robes. The reason I didn't do this before starting the quest is because we actually get high drop rates on the robes while on this part of the quest. There we go. Time to meet our agent. Oh my.
You must be the famous RS3 Released.
Yes, I'm RS3 Released.
Pleased to meet you. I'm Zanuck of the Dorgeshuun. I can't wait to see the surface. But first you need to get us both sets of ham robes.
Yes, I have 2 sets of robes.
All right, let's go. I can't wait to see all around Lumbridge.
We take her around Lumbridge, introducing her to the townspeople, starting with our favorite cook.
What? Who is this? Is it a cave goblin?
I'm Zanuck of the Dorgeshuun. Pleased to meet you.
Zanuck is the first cave goblin to visit the surface. I'm giving her a tour of Lumbridge.
Well, pleased to meet you, Zanuck. In fact, it's a good thing I met you. It's the Duke's birthday today, and I should be making him a lovely big birthday cake. I need eggs, flour, and milk.
I don't know what those things are. Are they exotic surface foods?
Well, they're not exactly exotic. They're just the base ingredients of the cake.
If they're the basic ingredients, why don't you already have them?
Well,
I don't think Zanuck has time to help you.
it was worth a try.
Next, we speak with Duke Horatio. We ask him if he's heard about any ham activity. He says no. We head outside.
So this is the surface. What's that? The giant light?
That's the sun.
It's so bright, I can't look at it, but it's amazing to think that there's nothing above me. Just the sun and the air and empty space. Forever. For generations, my people have lived with rock over our heads. But now I can see the sky.
We introduce Zanuck to Hans, Bob, who does not like goblins, this man, who's a little backwards, and then take her to the general store. We introduce her to the Doomsayer. He tells her that she has a terrible doom in her future. Then the Lumbridge Sage, Father Eric, and finally a surface goblin. She's disappointed to hear that the goblins still worship their big, high war god. Content with what she's seen, she tells us about the mark on her forehead.
It was about the same time the passage to the surface opened up. I was visiting Juna, the story snake. She likes to hear of my adventures, and she sometimes lets me drink the tears of Guthix. And when they opened up the giant frog's stomach, they found all the missing silver and Mistag's brooch. I collected the tears like I had before. I hope I get ranging XP. Ah! What's happening?
Juna told her that the power of the tears marked her for a special purpose. She says that someday the mark will glow and she should return here.
Ever since then, I've wondered what the sign meant. But perhaps you will help me to find out, RS3 Released. I've seen enough of Lumbridge now. Let's get to the ham lair and see if they're up to anything.
Both of us disguise ourselves. Then we head to the hideout. We listen to the deacons spread hate against monsters, then speak with Johannes Ulbrecht. We ask them if they're planning anything against the cave goblins. He says those foul creatures will be dealt with very soon. Back in the main room, Zanuck spots a trapdoor with her special eyes. We pick the lock and find a secret area. We're spotted by a guard who tells us to leave. Zanuck tells us to get him to turn around. We do, and she one-shot kills him. We crawl through the storeroom and do the same thing with this one. Next, we tell her when to strike this patrolling guard. And then, whatever this is, happens. For the last guard, we tell Zanuck to wait here and then run around and distract him. We listen in to the ham plans. They're planning to do something, but before Zanuck can tell us what, we're knocked out by a guard. We're put in jail, and Zanuck is nowhere to be found. We break out and find her just outside. Dead. The mark on her forehead is glowing. We take her to Juna and tell her what happened. She communes with Guthix and says the gods will allow her death to be reversed. She says the tears have the power to do this. We collect 20 in Xanix's bowl and it revives her. She relives her death before realizing what happened. Juna tells her that Xanix's destiny is to lead all goblins into a new age. Xanix tells us what she heard. Ham is digging into the cave goblin tunnels, and they're using Keldrgrim machinery to flood them. We teleport out, and I realize that Xanix can't do that, so we go back and get her, then go to the watermill.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking, RS3 Released?
I don't know, what are you thinking?
I could hide in one of those crates, and then you could carry me downstairs as if you were carrying some of the machinery.
Good idea.
It worked! Now we've just got to deal with Sigmund!
We find Sigmund, the Duke's old advisor. He tells the guards to kill us. Wait, if I don't close this dialogue, will they all eventually die? I'm doing it for science. Xanix is immortal. Well, the guards are all dead.
I won't let you destroy my home, Sigmund!
Xanix shoots at Sigmund and he prays against range. We one-bop him and he panic tallies. We smash the drilling machine and return to Dorgeshuun.
Now let's get back to Dorgeshuun to tell them what happened. We can go south along the tunnel Sigmund has dug. I'll show you the way through to the city. Wait till we tell Mistag about what happened.
She talks to Urtag, the Elder.
The surface is a strange and wonderful place. We should embrace it, not shut ourselves off. And not all surface dwellers are bad. Without RS3 Released, the city would have been destroyed for sure.
The council votes that humans are allowed into the city. Quest complete. Quest number 107. A Fairy Tale 2, Cure a Queen. After the last quest, we never returned to Marchin, the Master Gardener, to let him know we solved the issue of the dying crops. We tell him now, he says he'll test it out and plant some crops. Now we wait. After 5 minutes, he tells us that even more plants are dying than before. We head to Xanaris and see the Godfather is still reigning over. We look for Fairy Nuff and find her shack ransacked from front to back, and find Fairy Nuff's healing certificate. We study it. It has some strange markings on the back. We go to the Cosmic Altar and find a stone with similar writing. If we assume this writing says Cosmic Rune Altar, then that means the certificate says, "The Godfather attacked us. We have fled to safety. If you are loyal to Her Majesty, find us by using the coordinates AIR, DLR, DJQ, AJS. We ask the Fairy Godfather about the missing queen. He's shocked. We ask who could have done this, and where they could have gone. He said he doesn't know who, but whoever did took her through the fairy rings. He tells us to talk with the coordinator. She'll explain how to use them. He makes us promise to tell him when we find her so we can rescue her together. We talk with the coordinator. She explains that the fairy rings were made using ancient magics that were sealed away for centuries even before the fairies came to Xanaris. The fairy queen used this magic to create the fairy rings when they first arrived here. She says anyone who uses the fairy ring in the center of the city will be able to teleport to another fairy ring that is linked with the 3-letter code. She also mentions that as long as we are in the center of the ring, we cannot be attacked. We take our Draymond staff and stand in the fairy ring. We put in the first coordinate, AIR, and arrive near Witch Haven. The second one, DLR, puts us in the middle of the Poison Wastes. The third one, DJQ, teleports us just a few feet away. And the last one, AJS, brings us to some sort of wooded refuge where all the fairies have run to. We find Fairy Nuff and the Queen, who is still unconscious. She explains that the Fairy Godfather refused to return the Queen's secateurs. The Godfather threatened her, so she took the Queen here for safety. The Godfather retaliated by destroying her home and attacking other fairies, so they all fled here. She says that the Godfather has been bringing monsters into the city in an attempt to take complete control. While we're talking, Very Wise arrives and tells us that the Godfather has just enlisted an army of orcs that are now occupying Xanaris. She says we need to wake up the Fairy Queen by finding a way to get her secateurs back. We return to Xanaris and pickpocket the Godfather, while they're all looking the other way. We return them to Fairy Nuff. Unfortunately, it's too late. Now we need a potion of magic essence as well. She says we need to make one using starflowers and a Gorax claw. She says starflowers only grow in the higher planes, and Gorax are vicious creatures trapped in a small plane. Both planes can be accessed using the fairy rings. We head to CKP to find the higher plane. This place is pretty, which is good, because we need to wait 2 minutes here for the flowers to grow. We pick the flower once it grows, then go to DIR, finding the Gorax plane. We make the potion and bring it back to the queen. She wakes up. She says her and the Godfather both were fighting the Tanglefoot. Very, very wise, fills her in on what she missed. She swears vengeance against the Godfather and rewards us for our efforts. Quest complete. 59 thieving. We also get a 2500 XP lamp that we can bank. Quest number 108. Lunar Diplomacy. We talk to Lokar Sea Runner, who just arrived on the port of Releka. He says he's a Fremennik who's been gone for a while. He left because of the boring, slow ways of the Fremennik. He wanted to be a pirate, and now he is. He's returned now because they've run low on supplies. He says he's come here while the rest of the crew are on the Lunar Isle where the Moon Clan live. They're the Fremennik's most hated enemy. They're a powerful race of mages who could read minds, and since they're at war with the Fremenniks, they'd probably kill us on sight after finding out we're Fremennik. He says that we can get a seal of passage from Brunt, and that should protect us from aggression. We ask Brunt for the seal under the pretense that we will be trying to calm the hostilities between Releka and the Moon Clan, and he gives us one. We go back to Lokar, and he rows us to the Pirate's Cove. We board the ship and speak with Captain Bentley. He says that we're departing for Lunar Isle. The ship runs a circle around the cove instead, and we hoist anchor back where we started. He says we should have ended up on Lunar Isle and doesn't know what's happening. He tells us to speak with Jack the Navigator. We find Birdseye Jack below deck. He says the course he plotted was perfect. He says there's only one reason why this could have happened. Magic. He thinks someone jinxed the ship. We tell Bentley, and he agrees. He says we need to remove whatever or whoever has been jinxed from the ship. We speak with the crew, starting with Schultz. He explains that a jinx could be a variety of different things. Sometimes it's incredibly bad luck, sometimes it's a curse attached to an object so that misery comes to whoever owns it. He says someone experienced in magic would have had to place it, like the Moon Clan. He says someone from their landing party must have done something highly offensive to the clan in order for them to respond by jinxing the whole ship. Next, we talk with Burns at the lowest level of the ship. He says the whole crew besides him were on the island, and they were all drunk. Next is Lee at the top of the ship. He says that he didn't see anyone being belligerent, however, the first mate slipped away during the feast. He left, then returned 20 minutes later. We confront the first mate, Davy Boy. He explains that he simply needed to make sure the rigging was secure. He says it's not usually his job to do that though, it's the cabin boys, but he couldn't find him at the feast, so he did it himself. We confront the cabin boy and he confesses. He says he was lured by a girl of the Moon Clan who promised control of the ship if he just drew some symbols throughout it. He says in order to see the symbols, we'll need a special lantern. He gives us an emerald lantern and we hunt for the symbols. We find the first one on a cannon nearby, the second one on the wall chart in the captain's quarters, the third on a chest on the lowest level, fourth one on these crates filled with food, and the last one on the support column. We tell the captain we removed the jinx and we set sail, successfully arriving at Lunar Isle. We head into the city. We talk to Meteora and ask to speak with their leader. She says they don't have one, but if we want an introduction, to speak with the Oneromancer, who is responsible for initiation rituals. We find her on the southeast part of the island, next to a runecrafting altar of some sort. We tell her why we're here, to bring peace between Releka and Lunar Isle. She says that none of the Fremennik value their ways. We explain it's because the Moon Clan puts off an aura of superiority which the Fremennik do not like. She says that if we can begin to understand their ways, maybe we can pass along what we've learned to the Fremennik. She says we need to complete the ritual called the View of the Self-Dream, which is similar to the Fremennik trials that we have done except for the Moon Clan version. She says it usually takes years, but she welcomes us to try to do it quicker, even though she doesn't believe it to be possible. We need to prepare first by gathering a few items. We need a waking sleep potion, a lunar staff, and ceremonial traveling clothes. Starting with the potion, she recommends we speak with Baba Yaga in her traveling chicken house. We find it and go inside. It's kinda shaky. We speak with Baba Yaga inside and she tells us how to make the waking sleep potion. We need a guam leaf, a marantil leaf, and a suka tooth in a special vial of water. She gives us the vial and we head back towards the Oneiromancer. On the path are a few sukas. We kill a few, take 1 tooth and 4 hides. We grind down the tooth and make the potion. Next, to make the staff, we need to take a Draymond staff to each of the elemental altars. We imbue it with air, fire, water, then earth energy, creating the lunar staff. We return to the Oneiromancer. She says the next part is making the suit, which has 8 pieces. The helm is made from lunar ore, mined from the stalagmites from the caves on this island. The cape we'll need to convince one of the Moon Clan to give it to us. The amulet we need to get from Meteora. The torso is made from suka hides, as are the gloves, the boots, and the trousers. Finally, for the ring, we'll need help from Celine. First, we talk with Remé Cersalis, the clothes store owner, and she tans the hide for us. We make the torso, trousers, gloves, and boots. Next, we talk with Celine. She says her grandfather had one of the ceremonial rings, but he died a long time ago. He may have buried it somewhere on the island. She says he wrote her a clue. From water's source, you should follow, crossing the westernmost bridge, and traveling further southwesterly to a bloom of blue. We head out of the city, first to go to the cave and mine the ore we need for the helm. Then we go around the southern part of the city, finding the flowers mentioned in the clue. We dig them up and find the ring underneath them. Then we teleport to Faldor to smelt the lunar ore, then go to Varrock and smith it into the helm. We return to the city and speak with Meteora. We ask for her amulet. She says she lost her lucky tiara, so she's using the amulet as a replacement. She says a suka stole it. We kill a couple more sukas until we find the one that stole her tiara. We return it to her, and she gives us the amulet. Finally, we speak with Pauline. She says she'll give us the cape if we can demonstrate insight by guessing her name. We say Pauline, but she admits that that's her alias. She says she has 1 first name and a triple barrel surname. The first name is Dane with 1 letter change. The first part of the surname rhymes with wood, the second rhymes with magic, and the third part rhymes with spade. We guess that it's Jane Blued Magic Maid. That's correct. She gives us the cape. We return to the Oneiromancer, and she undresses us 1 piece of clothing at a time. She says we're ready to start the ritual. She gives us some magic kindling from the first magic tree that ever grew. She says we need to pour the potion on it and light it on the giant brazier in the center of town. We do, and we find ourselves in the dream realm. We talk to the ethereal man nearby. He says to wake up, we simply read the lectern in the center, which is a book of our lives. All that has been and currently is in that book with blank pages of what will be. We stand on one of the platforms nearby and are launched to a platform with an ethereal mimic, who tells us to follow his lead. We follow him around the platform and perform various emotes. He says that we should understand that there is more to deep communication beyond words. We tell the ethereal man what we've learned. The next platform has an ethereal numerator. He speaks in numbers. He then starts speaking in a compound English number language that we can understand, and asks us to complete the sequences he's about to give us. The first one is 1 1 2 2 3, then 3 4. The next sequence is 1 9 2 8, then 3 7. Next is 1 1 1 2 1 3 1 4, then 1 5. The fourth sequence is 1 1 2 3 1 1 4, then 5, then 1. And the final sequence is 8 6 4, then 2, and 0. He teaches us that even if we're not able to understand someone at first, it's important to keep trying as they have wisdom and experiences to share. We return again and tell the ethereal man what we've learned. The next platform has an ethereal expert who challenges us to a race. However, he has the advantage of taking the straight path while we have to take the one with curves and obstacles. We accept. We jump over the obstacles, failing a few times. However, he's taking the leisure path and walking very slowly. We end up winning. We explain to the ethereal man that we should never give up just because someone else has an easier path, but overcome it and be the best we can in spite of it. The next island has an ethereal perspective. He challenges us to a competition. First to chop 20 logs wins. He gives us a bronze hatchet against his rune. Even with the disadvantage in hatchet, we finish the race while he still has 10 to go. We tell the ethereal man we've learned the importance of knowing our own abilities and having confidence in them. The next island has an ethereal fluke. He tells us that we need to turn the dice to make them add up to a number that he calls out. The trick is that the dice don't actually roll, they flip. A 1 becomes a 6, a 2 becomes a 5, a 3 becomes a 4, and vice versa. We do this 5 times, and we tell the ethereal man we've learned that even though sometimes we're forced into a game of chance, we can find reason behind it and increase our odds of coming out on top. The final island is a series of dream puff platforms. Some of them are solid, others we fall through. This is just a random path which requires trial and error. Eventually, after many attempts, we learn the true path and follow it to the end. We tell the ethereal man we've learned even though we're going into uncertain areas without solid footing, it's important to remember where we've gone and come from, so we can know where to go if we fail. He tells us we've learned the 6 core lessons and are ready for the final challenge. We're transported to an arena and we fight and defeat ourselves. The ethereal man tells us to wake up. We read our life story and wake up. We return to the Oneiromancer and tell her that we've completed their ritual. She's surprised at our ability. Someone from Rileka was able to keep such an open mind and learn so much. She says she will spread the word and work to reduce hostilities between Rileka and the Moon Clan. She rewards us with the ability to craft astral runes of the altar nearby, as well as access to the Lunar spellbook. Quest complete. 55 runecraft. Quest number 109, The Eyes of Glouphrie. The tree gnome stronghold had been overrun with cute creatures. Well, overrun is a strong word, there's just like 6 of them. We go into this cave and talk with Brimstale. We ask him what's going on with the creatures. He says this one is named Izzy, and he's his pet. We change the subject, and he says he studies magic in this cave. We show interest, which he finds refreshing, as most gnomes are suspicious of magic, so he has nobody to talk to about it with. He tells us the history as to why that is. The most famous gnomish mage got into trouble. He was the king at the time's great advisor, but he was exiled after the Goblin Wars. His name was Glouphrie. He doesn't know much about him, but he's been studying him recently. He learned that he was particularly interested in optics and light magic. He also learned that he was called Glouphrie the Untrusted, and that Oaknock the engineer didn't like him. Brimstale tells us to look around in the nearby room and tell him what we find. We find a broken statue of Glouphrie the Untrusted. There's a gap in the floor with a singing bowl on the other side, whatever that is, and some sort of machinery with a potted plant next to it. We inspect the bowl. It is clearly elvish and reminds us of a large drinking glass. We can hear the bowl give off a noise that echoes through the cave. We inspect the machine. It's made of oak and maple wood with crystal all glued together. We try to unlock it, but have no idea where to even start. We go back to Brimstale. He tells us he doesn't know much about the bowl yet, but the machine was built by Oaknock. He says that the room used to be Oaknock's workshop. He doesn't know what the machine does, but says Hazelmere might. He tells us that Oaknock, Glouphrie, and Hazelmere were all 3 the king's advisors when the Grand Tree was founded. We use the fairy rings practically for the first time to teleport to Hazelmere's peninsula. We talk to him, and he just speaks in the ancient gnomish language. Hazelmere uses a spell on us and creates a telepathic link, speaking directly into our minds. He tells us a story from the 4th Age. The elves had left Kandarin, leaving the land they had inhabited open for conquest. The gnomes and goblins warred over it. The goblins were too numerous for the gnomes to handle, but Glouphrie and King Healthorg came up with a plan. Glouphrie casted a spell creating illusions of a much larger army than they really had. The goblins ran away in terror, and the battle was won before it began. The next story is about an ancient silver spirit tree named Argento. His home was the gnome stronghold. One day, while Hazelmere was communing with the spirit trees, he was filled with a terrible sense of foreboding. Argento was dead. Hazelmere rushed back to the gnome stronghold, shocked to see that Argento appeared fine and nobody noticed anything. Upon closer inspection, Argento would not speak a word and his aura was gone. Hazelmere told Oaknock what he found and he immediately blamed Glouphrie. And he was right. Glouphrie glamored Argento to appear alive. He summoned the council and activated the machine, showing everyone what Glouphrie had done. The king demands Glouphrie answer for this. Glouphrie says what he was doing was best for all the gnomes. The king did not see it that way and only saw deception, and exiled him. It is said that Glouphrie went to somewhere called Afrasandra. Nobody has heard anything about Glouphrie aside from rumors since. Glouphrie says Oaknock's anti-illusion machine we found has something to do with elven crystal discs, one of which he happens to have and gives us a violet pentagon. We return to Brimstale and tell him what we've learned. While we do, we're shown a cutscene of a shrouded gnome spying on our conversation. The spy walks past and we notice him. He destroys Oaknock's machine. We're able to repair it with an oak log, maple log, tree sap, and ground mud rune. We tell Brimstale it's repaired and he gives us some more of the crystals that he also had laying around. These are different shapes and colors. We do the drop trick a few times to get a bunch of crystals. The crystals have values based on color. The farther up the color spectrum, the more the pieces are worth. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet are worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, respectively. Then, you multiply their values by the numbers of sides the shape has. The circle is 1, triangle is 3, square is 4, and pentagon is 5. This means that the violet pentagon is worth 35, and the red square is worth 4, and so on. We take them to the machine. It has 2 parts. One on the right is an exchanger. It takes up to 3 crystals in its input slots, and then exports up to 4 crystals of the same value total. The part on the left is asking for a specific value to be placed into its slot. The lock is requesting tin, so we exchange a few shapes until we get an orange pentagon worth 10. We put it in the lock and the machine opens. Inside the machine is 3 more locks. Another lock with 10 for one slot, just like the first one. A second one with a value of 6 by adding 2 shapes. And a third requiring 16 with 3 shapes. We put an orange pentagon in the top slot, a red pentagon and circle in the second lock slots, and 2 orange triangles with a red square in the bottom lock. The machine activates, and the cute creatures are turned into these gross, evil creatures. We conclude that this is clearly the work of the Afrosandrons, the people from the place that Glouphrie created all those years ago. Brimstale tells us that the creature has been watching his research. They must be spies. We kill it, then hunt down the rest. One at the front gate, another by the spirit tree, one by the tortoise pin, one in the prison at the top of the tree, and one next to the king. We kill all 6 of them and report to Narnode. He thanks us and says he will deliberate on what to do about the Afrosandrons. Before we go, he wants to give us something. It was Oak Knox, and he said only a hero of the gnome should have it. Narnode considers us a hero, so he gives us this small crystal seed. Quest complete. We head back into the cave and find there is a crystal bridge into the singing bowl. We sing the crystal, and it turns into a crystal saw. And that puts us in September of 2006, which, in my opinion, is around the start of the golden age of RuneScape. There are nothing but great updates to come for the next few years, and we're going to explore the ones we've gotten so far in the next half episode. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you there.